since 2020, there have been a very big interest, and it seems like it continues to grow around holding shares, buying shares of EV players, NIO, Li, Xpeng, Tesla, Lucid, through the CCIV, merger with the SPAC back last year, and more are possibly coming into the play, especially when you look at Rivian, right? And not only counting GM and Ford, also having their share price, market share of the company increasing. I mean, market valuation of the companies increasing because of, entering this new space and ramping up production there. But the thing is, there's something that lots of people, investors into this kind of stock, into this space specifically, are not really seeing. At least they're a little bit blindsided. And I want to share with you in this video the fact that the EV might be in a bubble, and what governments around the world through the recent COP21 targets are trying to accomplish may be a difficult thing to actually accomplish. And that's why instead of buying EV, I think it will be much more worth buying oil stocks, alongside, if you want to really gain some decent money in the next 2-3 years. All right, so let's get into it. First of all, today, if you haven't looked at what Tesla did or Lucid did, they had some pretty nasty days, especially at the opening. Lucid was down 15%, and Tesla was also down below the $970 a share, just because the SEC started some, investigation based on the solar aspect of Tesla. And also with Lucid here, they were talking about, hey, we need some documents, we need to do some investigation when it comes to the blank check you receive when it was still trading under CCIV. But when you look at what the Transportation Secretary said a couple of days ago, buy an EV and forget about gas. What could Yoruba tell us about EV adoption? So Mr. Buttigieg, the Secretary of Transportation here in the US, made an appearance on MSNBC last week, that was November 30th, to push President's Build Back Better agenda and share with customers that families that own an electric vehicle will never have to worry about gas prices again. And they were talking about incentives that they are giving to people buying electric cars, all right? And these incentives are supposed to offset the rising prices of gas, at least this recent year or this recent month, with inflation growing up in the US. But the thing is, they're also pushing this because they want to accomplish the COP21 targets to, have 50% of the automobile industry really being EV plays, EV cars, electrical vehicles. But when you look at what Europe is doing, the EU auto suppliers are sounding the alarm over electric targets. So these companies that are in this space which are supposed to work towards those 50% targets by 2035 are saying that, hey, this might not cut it, because even though there has been a lot of interest in electric cars in Europe due to a very generous subsidies in places like Germany, France, even Belgium, they are putting the industry on the limits. This is what the CEO of Stellantis, the CEO Carlos Tavares, announced last week. What has been decided is to impose on the automotive industry electrification that brings 50% additional cost against a conventional vehicle. There is no way we can transfer 50% of the additional cost to the final consumer, because most parts of the middle class will not be able to pay. I mean, have you checked lately I don't care whether you live in the US, in Canada, or even in Europe, have you checked lately the amount of electrical vehicles on the road? Even though I tend to see here in Texas more Teslas on the road, this is barely 5% of the overall car park in Texas only. And it might be a little bit different in other places like California or even New York. But the thing is, when you take the whole package overall, electrical vehicles are still very, very, very a thin part of the market share of the automobile industry. Now, when it comes to this pushing for EVs, EVs are costing a lot of money to the producers to make. So it's a tricky exercise to try to put out there in the market a model or an electrical car that will be not only sustainable, affordable, but there is something even more. All right, so let's hold on that for now. When you also look at this major automaker saying about EVs, this could be bad for business because governments trying to put that limits those targets onto the producers. It's also have a counter effect. First of all, this will be bad for the job market. Either way, all right? Because not only you have two choices, or you charge higher prices and sell few cars, or you take lower profit margins, which is not good for the shareholders. Either way, both options will result in employee layoffs. Tavares against EV, but to be clear, rather than face the fast pace at which automakers are being forced to adopt them, stating that associated costs are beyond the limits of what the auto industry can handle. More importantly, if you look at how the energy sector, right, the fossil fuel or the oil and the gas, this is the main source of either the supply chain or these automakers as of now, even considering the charging device, all right? The charging device, whether they are remote, whether they are from, the company itself, like the Teslas and the Jeeps, in order to produce these, in order to actually dig the batteries, I mean, the core material, which is lithium for the batteries, and the batteries is really the key ingredient when it comes to electrical vehicle. There is not enough lithium in the whole world to produce 10% of the entire, if they were to produce, 10% of the entire electrical vehicle market in the US only, not even counting the whole world, all right? Plus, in order to dig that lithium, you will need bulldozers. You will need, machines that are running 100% on fossil fuel, oil and gas. Plus, when you take into account the infrastructure bill, this is going to be another catalyst in the positive side of things for oil and gas. Just to say that to produce electrical cars, you need to consume a lot of fossil fuel, which is kind of, saying one thing and the exact opposite in the same phrase. It just doesn't make sense. So that is why I'm coming to the conclusion that these whole targets that governments are putting by 2035 on car producers to have 50% of their park being electrical vehicle, it's a dream. It's a little bit of a pipe dream, if you ask my opinion, all right? And based on this, I'm thinking that the EV sector, the Lucids, the Teslas, the Neos, the Xpeng, even if these are really run companies and this is the future, we have to deal with reality, and reality is there is not enough resources for everybody to have those kind of cars when you consider the cost. Plus, when you consider, the middle class or the working class or the medium household income, how are they going to afford an $80,000 or even if it's a $50,000 car? All of these cars are brand new, all right? The only cars you can have now, which are going to be used, are the Teslas. And those are, kind of at the high end price of the place. So still, there is a lot of things that are not making sense in these targets. And that's why if I have the choice today, all right, between buying EV stocks and oil and gas stocks, I would rather buy oil and gas stocks because even if we are pushing to accomplish those targets, it's still bullish. It's still a bullish catalyst for OG. It's still a bullish catalyst for the energy sector as we know it today. All right. Maybe when it comes to Tesla with the solar thing, it might be a little bit different, but the whole rest of it, pipe dream, people. So this is just my opinion. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one.